glad to have you join us on the program. I am Folashade Ogrinde. Foreign investment into Nigeria recorded a surge during the first 9 months of 2021, according to data released by the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission (NIPC). Nigerian companies attracted investments worth $19.1 billion from local and foreign investors. This indicates an increase by 113% from $8.98 billion recorded in a corresponding period of 2020. But how significant are these numbers to Nigeria's quest for economic growth? Joining me to discuss this further is Chief Economist and CEO of Streetnomics Limited, Gospel Obele. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, what do you make of the reported surge in foreign investments into Nigerian companies, especially when you consider that the increase is due to a favorably based period of 2020, which was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Falashadi, for having me. Yes, so we had that in view in terms of the pandemic, but also along with that was a huge level of policy support and some form of shared collaboration in enabling businesses recover from the pandemic. So quite significantly, we've seen a case where a lot of SMEs and different startups in different sectors, especially growth-seeking or growth-enabling sectors, have seen increasing investors' interest in those different spaces. So it's not surprising to see, but primarily it's just in line with the recovery efforts of the various monetary and fiscal policy institutions that are involved in this. Also, the fact that SMEs have grown to be more resilient and unconventional in seeking funding, all right, as a means to recovering as well and building more scalable and resilient businesses going forward on post-pandemic. So it was largely expected in view of recovery. However, there are still huge opportunity out there for more foreign direct investment if major concerns around security, around organizing the informal economy and access to market, if all those major concerns and challenges are fixed, we'll get to see way more increase in foreign direct investments and investments of all sorts in the business environment.
The NIPC in its report also revealed that the manufacturing sector attracted the highest investment of $3.76 billion in the review period, accounting for 42% of the inflows. Now, do you see this changing the economic landscape of this sector?
Yes, significantly. I mean, one of the major challenges that the manufacturing sector have had over time was majorly equipment financing challenges, all right, manpower, as well as all that it needs to become competitive as an industrialized, as a sector that sits at the heart of industrialization, sort of. So I mean, seeing investment in that angle is not quite surprising. We just need to scale the pace of investment as well as grow the local manpower required to undertake that investment potential into clear business cases and clear business returns. All right, until we can see that, all right, and as well as to position the output for the manufacturing sector into external markets, more like exports, and then as well as for local consumption. Until we can do that confidently from an end-to-end perspective, we may not be able to maximize the value of this investment at this stage. But significantly, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria has all it takes to scale for recovery and to build inclusive growth. In fact, it's at the heart of industrialization and inclusive development for Nigeria going forward.
Now let's talk about the information and communication sector, which accounted for 23% of total investment. Were you expecting more from this sector, especially when you see the kind of advantage it might have over other sectors?
Yes, primarily I was. But then that sector has faced a lot of fundamental challenges around valuation, around sizing, around determining what the market really holds as value, all right, for exchange of investment and returns. Over time, the Nigerian government and all of the MDAs associated with service-related engagements have not properly understood that subsector or that sector enough to unlock for the required value. So right now, we don't even have any clear national policy framework for the service sector, yet It holds almost 50% of the Nigerian GDP at the moment. All right. So we don't have any export drive or form of structured export financing or structured effort, export solutions to export our services into more competitive markets out there. And we have a lot of talent that are very competitive on a global scale, all right, in this subsector. So it's largely a structural issue around understanding, all right, valuing as well as positioning that sector, for investment. Until we can do that structural work, we may not be able to present an investable case for investors. The reason why we can see that the manufacturing sector has more investable case than the service sector is that it's because clearly the case for the manufacturing has been developed, valued, and sold to investors. So investors know that once they put their money in so and so sector, they can see significant return. It's like a garbage in, garbage out in quote scenario. But we don't have that scenario for service sector in the case. So it's still largely underestimated and largely undermined as a critical bit or a critical chunk to engage social inclusion sort of. And that's why you have a lot of the young Nigerians actively playing it now.
Now let's talk about an interesting part of this report, which of course is also not surprising. The report reveals that Lagos State received majority of the investments, accounting for 82% in total. Now, how do you think other states can attract investment in order to drive up their revenue base?
So first and foremost, we're not surprised to see that because even in the VAT structure as well, Lagos State contributes almost 50% of the national VAT remittance. All right, other states struggle. All right, struggle in the sense, all right, within that 45% pool. In the sense, so it's a given that by geographic indications, by commercial indicators, and all that, Lagos State always stands out. Which is why I keep saying Lagos State is not in the southwest when you're thinking about economic impact and contribution from that light. So, in form of what other states can do, first of all, it has to do with positioning. It has to do with the political will and the commitment from the political class. All right, as well as transforming the values and the culture of the people in that space. Lagos State has been lucky to have all these things as a result of it. I mean, commercial positioning over the years, but it can still do more as a state to unlock the value. However, more other states have to do way more in terms of building the political strength, capacity, as well as enabling the businesses, all right, to rethink the values, the ideology, and commitment. Once you have those two legs firm, you now begin to rethink what will be the comparative advantage upon which you can build competitive engagement. All right. Once you begin to roll out competitive engagement, then some form of value will be attached to those states or those regions, which will start attracting investment and the like. So it's a chain of mechanism that needs to be in place and that needs to have worked over a period of time to begin to attract the kind of investments you're looking at. If other states would increasingly become valuable. Once you become valuable and competitive, all right, you begin to attract investments to grow your home base, and automatically you now have the base to diversify internal revenue, VAT collections, and the likes.
Now, speaking of competitive advantage, you've made a very valid point, and this is something we'll be discussing when we're talking about CBN's e-naira and its impact on Nigeria's economy. But Mr. Albele, it's been a very, very pleasant first half conversation. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk about the e-naira and how it can benefit you as a Nigerian. Do stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. Two of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no, you don't need to do this. We are only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country. Corruption not in my country.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. Two of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no. You don't need to do this. We are only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. Well, Nigeria recently joined a handful of countries that operate the digital money system, marking the beginning of Nigeria's foray into digital currency. According to President Muhammadu Buhari, the use of the currency could grow the economy by $29 billion over 10 years, enable direct government welfare payments, and even increase the tax base. While the CBN announced that the e-naira has received overwhelming interest from 33 banks, 2,000 customers, and 120 merchants, the initiative has attracted more questions than answers. Well, I still have the Chief Economist and CEO of Streetnomics Limited. Thank you so much for standing by, and I hope you give answers to some of these questions. But before we delve into the pros and cons of the e-naira, how exactly does it work?
So it's a very simple solution. You have Mr. A, who has probably 100,000 naira in his account, goes to the same bank and requests to open an e-naira account. All right, it's just simply the same thing as taking, let's say, 10,000 naira from your 100,000 naira account and then funding your e-naira account. So the same naira, the same account balance, but one is geared towards digital engagement. One is relatively more traditional in its nature. All right, the e-naira cannot be withdrawn as a paper currency. It can only be used to transact on digital platforms. All right, so that's just the idea. Re-enabling the digital payment landscape in Nigeria to become more effective and sustainable in the long term. But it's still the same account, the same owner, and the same platform. But then again, you can transfer money from one person to the other using your e-naira account. Just the same way you would have transferred money from your conventional account to somebody else's conventional account. But the only challenge there is whoever will be on the receiving side also needs to have an e-wallet. All right, so when you get the e-naira app and you open your information and all that, technically you would have what we call an e-wallet, where you can save your naira monies in digital forms. All right, and then from that platform you can pay for services online. You can transfer to someone else that has similar service. You can't transfer from e-naira to another person's conventional or traditional account. It won't go. All right, so it has to be e-naira to e-naira, but you can transfer from your own conventional account to your own e-naira account. So it's just simply a means of exchange, but relatively more digitized and technically more parallel in terms of trying to enable and encourage more persons to jump into that digital inclusion sort of.
Now, the CBN clarified that the e-naira isn't cryptocurrency that appreciates in value. How then does it benefit users?
Yes, the e-naira is completely different from cryptocurrency in as much as they both run on the blockchain technology. But it benefits users to a very large extent. Now, let me also state that the core difference between the e-naira and the alternative or cryptocurrency is that crypto is an alternative currency. It's a digital currency, but an alternative currency. What makes it alternative is that it is not recognized in any country in the world yet as the primary means of foreign exchange. So in Nigeria, you still have the naira, not Bitcoin. In the US, you still have the dollars, not Bitcoin. In South Africa, you still have the rand, not Bitcoin. So it's the crypto is just an alternative that people have adopted as a digital currency, all right, as against the home currency. So what banks are now seeking to do is to do more in terms of enabling their own home currency or conventional currencies to get competitive in the digital currency space. But it's also highly beneficial in the sense that it encourages for more digital transactions. All right, the central bank and apex institutions or banks can generally begin to track monetary inflows, monetary outflows, and transactions, which a lot of Nigerians, a lot of people globally do not want to or do not like in a sense. All right, the question of privacy of transaction is taken out of the picture because now the central bank has complete control and they can track and monitor. However, it should encourage financial inclusion, meaning that more people have the potential to jump into the mainstream of this in era. It has the capacity to go beyond borders to encourage rural women, rural men, and young adults in other spaces, all right, to engage transactions within Nigeria and all that. Excuse me. However, that borders heavily is a function of how much of digital inclusion or digital infrastructure we have in place, all right, to be able to engage. In fact, digital literacy plus financial literacy as well, all right, in order to engage a critical mass on this drive. So the INRA is fundamentally a very good idea, but it is not still comprehensive in its deployment. Part of it being comprehensive and being able to roll out and being able to maximize its full value is ensuring that there is enough digital financial literacy as well as digital infrastructure to scale.
Now let's talk about the issue of cybercrime. Days after the launch of the e-naira, the CBN warned the public to be wary of fraudulent emails by fraudsters. How concerned are you about this development? Do you think it can impede the growth of this initiative?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think I understand your question. So, number one, it can, from an angle of the central bank has not also done quite well in communicating the value of the in-era, all right, as a mean to an end. So you explain what that means is and explain what the end is. The end is financial inclusion. The end is monetary systems development. The end is a cashless economy. All right, it's just a means. However, being the fact that that means has been fully communicated, you have some loopholes in understanding, in onboarding, and in acceptance. All right, but then again, the growing level of cybercrime have increased the fears in onboarding the in-era. Added to that, the fact that the central bank has presented itself to be more monopolistic and individualistic in executing that initiative. And what that simply means is that in February, the central bank banned cryptocurrency. In August, the central bank seized licenses of some fintech, as well as rolled out relatively harsh conditions for engaging forex, BDCs, and the likes. What all those policies did was to yank off other collaborators or other stakeholders in the ecosystem that could have come together to empower the rollout, the acceptance, and the scalability of the INRA initiative. What we have right now is that the central bank is saying to scale the INRA on its own, as well as you're having existing loopholes and leakages in the Nigerian economy that are worsening the cybercrime situation, as well as increasing fears to even onboard solutions such as the INRA. There's also conversations that a lot of banks have rolled out digital products, digital services, virtual cards, virtual banking initiatives, and the INRA seems to be clashing, all right, with what they're trying to do. So there's some form of internal misalignment as well, which is also not an incentive to enable commercial bank rollout of the INRA to its users.
Well, definitely, the e-naira is a welcome initiative to the Nigerian sphere, but currently there are 360 downloads. That's 10 days after the launch, and just like you've explained, it's a peer-to-peer issue. So we hope that more businesses or Nigerians basically buy into the idea of the e-naira. But many thanks, Chief Economist and CEO of Strictnomics Limited, Gospel Obele. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me always. Appreciate it.
And it's a wrap on the program. Thank you and see you next week. Bye for now.